Is this thing on?
Hello, Mama.
Oh, Mama. We made it.
What it do, though? For the second time, though.
Hey, let's get it, yo.
So today we got two of the most special people on the planet to me. Legends.
Radiating.
People I've known for a very long time. Very grateful to be here. Mm-hmm. You might know them from the Bangers crew.
But maybe.
But
Who knows?
But if you're a thug,
Are you a thug?
you're gonna know them from the Finger Bangers crew.
Bring it back.
2 or 3, you know what I mean?
DJ legends, DMC ITF champs.
Okay.
Yeah, threw it back right there. Threw it back to the early 2000s.
We'll take it.
Producers.
Sounds good.
Have created a craft, a soundscape for the industry, helped this industry evolve, had tremendous careers. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Ryan Replay Buendia.
What up, baby?
Yeah.
And Dominic Goldenchyld Cudo.
Cudo!
What it really do, though.
What it really do, though?
Oh.
Hey, shout out to the fact that this is the second time us doing this. We literally stopped right here, did it again. But I wanted y'all to know that. It was nobody's fault.
Unplugged.
You know what I'm saying?
It's no accident. We got replay in the building.
Yeah.
We got
Exactly.
replay in the building.
Exactly.
Sorry, I had to do that for a
Exactly.
second time.
Had to do it a second time.
As always.
So starting off as DJs, let's dive right in. How and why did you guys get into DJing?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with where we grew up. We grew up in a very in the Bay Area, San Jose particularly.
Shout out to the Bay, baby.
Yeah, the Bay Area. It's very DJ centric, man. I feel like we had a lot of the most I'd say technically skilled at the time, DJs around us. So we would be able to, go to an event and see a Qbert and see a Shortcut.
Yeah.
What year was this?
We're
what
talking
the
about
early 90s, right?
early 90s through 2000s.
Word.
I mean, we could literally go to these events and just kind of take it all in. And we were really inspired by sort of the technical aspects of DJing. Right?
Which is
Crazy.
Which is interesting because DJing has a very different term now than it did that back then. I mean, you're talking about battle DJs, you're talking about scratch DJs. That whole era, and it was such a mega era too. So it's cool. That's kind of like what inspired you guys.
Yeah, it kind of sharpened the sword early on, and kind of taught us to listen to music a little bit differently. I mean, you're listening to a guy like Qbert manipulate existing sounds in a crazy new way. So it taught us to listen to it a little bit differently than I think someone maybe who didn't come up through those or through that lane.
Yeah. Y'all had a respect for the technicality of the
Absolutely.
But why'd you guys start DJing? Like, what led to that? And did you start off individually?
Yeah, I think both of us kind of individually started out doing mobile kind of DJing thing, because that was another part of the Bay Area that was big. Was it was the thing to have the biggest speakers in the neighborhood. It was the thing to have all the dopest lights and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was part of it, you know what I mean? And then in there, mixed in there, you might have some scratchers like Qbert or people like that would get in the mix and start doing that.
So just being a part of the scene.
The scene itself, it was more of a well-rounded thing. You would get, you get the dope mobile, DJs, and then you'll have the turntablists, what they call them now.
Yeah.
Mixed in there, you know what I mean? And that was kind of what we were driven by, seeing that. So.
And you guys went to high school together?
No, actually, I'm.
No, hell no! I didn't go to high school with him.
Yeah, what you saying, bro?
I'm much younger than Goldenchyld. Thing. I'm I'm
Goldenchyld, 45. I'm 17.
No, but I'll say on my side, I was in high school and I already had heard about the Finger Bangers, in the neighborhood. So I wasn't even
they
in
had
the crew.
existed before you.
They already existed. So they're already they're known to be in all the DJ battles and just killing everybody.
Word.
And one day someone dared me to enter a Guitar Center battle, and I saw it was just all the dudes from Finger Bangers. I was like, oh great, I lost. Right? I was scared. Luckily they didn't show up. They're too busy winning some other battle over there.
Yeah.
But I would say they already had a name for themselves, and so you know, that's they kind of.
Yeah.
If you want to hear a funny story about that, is we would all go to these battles, and we were in there was sort of like a little leagues for DJing in the Bay Area, where there was like a monthly battle that everyone would go to.
Oh, that's
go
wild.
And show up, and people
it's right
from out of town heard about it, and they would start coming down. So there's some cats from LA would come down and join this kind of like this little league of DJ battles that would happen. Right,
It was right off Hayden Fillmore. It's called Zebra Records.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's an integral part. I mean, there's like you have like cats would just go there to battle. Like,
it was
go
big.
there to battle. And so this guy was in one of them, and all of us were there, and we saw him, and we're like, "Yo, guys, we better get this guy on the squad before he takes us all out."
Oh,
That's amazing. Hey, that contrast is fucking epic.
Yeah.
Replay's over here at the Guitar Center, like just waiting to get assassinated. You know what I mean? The next thing you know, y'all are at Zebra Records, y'all watching him just throw the machine guns out.
No, it's the realest shit. Like, and then, and you know, he like I think that battle that we were all at, he ended up like winning that day.
Word.
And we were all playing this gig that night, and we had invited him to come and rock with us that night.
Oh, that's epic.
And we were playing like it was this really cool kind of like underground hip hop spot. It was thrown by who was it? It was like a Japanese.
Yeah.
It was like a Japanese
Underground
crew.
Underground
Underground Railroad
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the name of it, and it was just
Wild.
like you would go there and you'd hear like the most like, you know, Black Moon to
Yeah.
like Wu-Tang to just all of the craziest records at that time that were just really inspiring the culture on like underground shit.
Yeah.
You know, and so he came to rock with us that night, and then we just became like really good friends, and you know,
That's insane. What
Kinda
was
is.
that like for you?
For me, it was like I was like 16 years old, so I'm like, first of all, I'm in San Francisco battling. That was weird for me already. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I meet these guys, and they're like, let's hang out, let's go. We're gonna DJ at this thing. And first of all, Underground Railroads was more than that. It was like you don't know who you're gonna run into as far as DJ wise. You know, coming from that turntablist background, you know, it's like you look up to the Cuberts and the D Styles and the Shortcuts and those people. You know. They were all at Underground Railroads at that night. So these guys were like already scratching it up with them. And so I'm like quiet, just shy.
Yeah.
Looking at these guys like, whoa, like I could kick it back here with you guys.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, and I'm not even allowed to be in the club in the first place, right?
Truth be told, at that time, I don't think any of us really were. But because
That's hilarious.
because
That's wild.
Zebra kind of like opened the doors for us, and we kind of had like we showed a lot of face out there. They would invite us to come and
Dope.
play, even
Dope.
though none of us was
Dope.
21 yet.
Yeah.
You know, and it was
That's
a
wild.
21 plus club.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, we still ended up getting Ryan.
And shout out to Israel too.
Israel's a big
Israel
part of
was
that.
like the owner of Zebra Records, and really didn't. He was an accountant, but really didn't have to. He just loved the culture and just
Word.
created a platform for us to be able to do that. So
Yeah, that's epic.
yeah, so it's shout out to Iz.
So once the bangers came together, did you? I mean, something was special just beyond DJ battling. Like obviously, you guys did all the competitions together, but then you started making music together. And what was kind of the catalyst to go from being like battle DJs, like and cutting up and sampling and beat juggling and all that, to being like, yo, let's make a song, let alone let's make a fucking album.
Man, it's funny you say that because like even like after that same DJ battle, like they had asked me to be in the crew. And so I was already like on cloud nine. They're like, all right, yeah. So next day we're recording on this big compilation at the time called Deep Concentration. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but it was to us in our world, that was like a big thing. They're like, yeah, we're recording that tomorrow. So you might want to come by and do that.
Deep Concentration was it was a compilation that was put together by Ohm Records, who at the time they had done a few of them, and they were very DJ centric compilations. And you'd have cats like Z Trip do a track, or you'd have like the X-Men do a track, and then so we had an opportunity to submit for it. And so we told Ryan, we're like, yo, we need to get in the studio right now. We got to try and submit a track to be on this big compilation. And we were all really stoked to be a part of it because we had bought the previous ones because
It was a big deal.
We knew exactly what it was. So we're like, okay, we gotta come hard. You know.
Oh, that's
And so
But
early on, like we already learned how to compose. With
that
our
was the
turntable.
next day.
Yeah, that was literally the next day after the battle.
Yeah,
They're
we knew that was on the table.
But like,
Yeah.
there's one thing to compose, but like now you're getting into recording. So how, like,
Oh well, yeah, that happened because I don't know. One day our boy, shout out Nick No, He was in community college. And
Mr. Nobility himself.
Yeah. Turntable World knows him as Nobility.
No Photo himself.
Yeah, Nick No Photo.
He brands his photos.
Literally.
His Instagram photos.
So like it was crazy how time happened because like literally I was going to graduate high school and I was going to go to San Jose State. That's the plan. And he was going to go and graduate from De Anza as community college. And so
I used to live so close.
Yeah, right there,
De Anza, bro.
Yeah, and so literally, like, you know, he was like, I found this music school, and just come and take a look at it with me. And from then on, I didn't even know what production was. First of all, I just saw. I was like, this is a big studio, and I guess we're gonna learn how to use this equipment. That's all I knew. Yeah. So I dropped everything. I took my parents there on a tour, and was like, that was it, you know. And so. Me and Nick decided to go to that school together where we learned music production and engineering and all the recording process.
And was that during the time where you guys made the first album?
No, this is actually before that.
Oh, before that. Okay.
This is kind of, it's funny that you say that because like literally from the basics that we learned from that school, we learned how to record an album, which is, I don't know if we would have been able to do that if we didn't go to the school. So also, let me just say that the effect that had, like, so Nick and Replay went to recording school, right? And this was in Oakland.
Yeah.
And
so we were all still very much a crew at that point. And so when they went to school, they would sort of like kind of share what they were learning with the rest of us. So it spread out through our crew, and it got us all hyped. And we just were like, oh, wait, how do you do that? So it was almost like the Cliff's Notes for us.
That's
them
epic.
actually going was like, it opened the door for the rest of us to understand, like, oh, wait, an MPC? Oh, okay, yeah. Now, I've always seen those, but I didn't know how to use them. And now
so y'all were just growing together.
And then he'd be like, yo, this is Pro Tools. Like, check this out. And then you're like, oh, wow, okay, Pro Tools. And this is how you do this. And this is how you do that. This is how you set up, you know, buses. This is how you do this. And, like, we all learned that because they got to go to school to do it. You know, so they got to spread that with us.
That's really dope.
So.
Now, it's interesting really because, like, when you think about DJs, like, obviously you guys have heard this a lot. There's always that stupid saying, like, DJs aren't real musicians, right? Because you guys don't play a fucking quote-unquote instrument. You don't play guitar, piano, or this or that. So going from being a DJ into now making music, how did that definition change for you in terms of, like, being composers, being songwriters, making something that is not like, hey, we're going to do a verse, chorus, verse here, or make a hip-hop beat, but actually make the beginnings of taking what you guys did DJing and made that into, like, a soundtrack, and has you guys developed into being actually musicians? You know, it's just defined differently. It's like, you know, as DJs.
I think as turntablists coming up from that era, we kind of didn't mind all of that. We consider ourselves musicians. We considered ourselves, like, we call ourselves turntablists because we believe that our turntable is our instrument.
Absolutely.
We can literally make instruments, and actually it's proven, like, we've made full-on songs just with a turntable. You know, people are doing it now people have always been doing it, from Kid Koala to Qbert to all these guys, you know, Shadow even, you know, and it's like, you know, I think early on what we did learn that, you know, I think we learned composition. Like we learned that early on, like, I think with just, you know, creating, because we would do a lot of these battle routines, and it would be team battles where we had to literally, one guy's on the drums, you know, making a drum beat on one turntable. Another guy's doing the bass. Another guy's doing the piano. And there you had a song, you know, one guy doing the words. So
all synchronized.
Yeah, all synchronized. So you kind of had the basics of composition right there.
Which is so interesting because you guys had a very unique situation being a 6-man crew.
Yeah.
So that was actually, are there 6-man crews as DJs, or were you guys really the first ones to get on that?
I will say that we are the first people to use 12 turntables in one routine.
That's right.
So that, like I don't think anyone's ever done that.
Stacked up though. Was that like?
Oh, it's an
assembly line. Just but what's interesting, because when you say that, it's like it kind of gave you guys a very special opportunity to make music and then perform it almost like a band would.
Yeah.
Was that being done among other DJ crews?
Absolutely. We were those are the competitions that we were doing. We're all team battles where other teams or bands were doing the same thing. So luckily, like I said, we learned composition very early on, and it kind of like I would say it was one of our plus like it was one of our strengths for sure.
What was it like for y'all, like coming up, especially being like at that age, like where you're like squad, and then like you were looking up to these cats that they kind of brought you on. Like, well, it's crazy because like I don't think a lot of people understand the time and effort that it really takes to be a turntablist.
Yeah.
And let alone a DJ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
let alone to even a producer though. It's like any of that.
But like I feel like, from y'all's pathway where you guys started as DJs, it's like I feel like, that is like Olympic development training to me. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like your amateur career.
The fact that you've been able to do it DJing and with the turntables, you know what I'm saying? For him to be 16 years old and y'all's crew of like probably like 18, 19-year-old, 17 cats that have also been doing it, like, but like the thing is, like the DJs that really make it, like the Q-Berts and the A-Tracks and like y'all that were doing it then as well, like the shout everybody in this game that really like influences the cultures coming before them. Yeah, like you would suspect that just like producers locking themselves in the studio, it's like as DJs and turntables, you're locking yourself up in the rooms and just going after.
Oh,
like,
man,
what was that like for y'all? Like,
I mean, for me, it was like, I don't know. I can only speak on my side. Like, I was still in high school, so like, I'm not proud of it, but I cut school to like freaking practice. And around that time, it was like you really had to practice because, like, for me, I'm already a shy guy, so like I had to make sure my routine was flawless to me before anyone heard it. You know what I mean? So it was like I kind of already had that standard for myself. Like if I'm gonna do this live, this better be dope. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, they were already had the names for themselves. They were already. I would see them performing with like Shortcut and all these big names, and I'm like, damn, like these guys are like. As far as San Jose goes, they were setting the tone already before I even got in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I would say it was work ethic. I think anyone really like whether it's piano or anything, if you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter how long. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you'll spend the hours to get it down and get into it because you love it that much. Yep. Yeah. So I think it just starts with the passion, really having the passion for passion for your craft. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's something we talk about a lot often on this podcast is work ethic. And like we say, it's not like a set number of hours. Like some people are like, well, work ethic, you just kind of are in it. You're just like in music. It's all encompassing. You're doing it all the time. You're thinking about it all the time. Usually in the arts, right? Or anything. But it's like, how do you also deal with like the sacrifice you have to make to work hard? And like the kind of like whether it's on relationships or your time or cutting school, like there is a level of sacrifice and commitment that you have to have. It's not just being like super passionate and getting it down. It's like, well, if we want to be great, we can't just always like do leisurely things. How did like sacrifice and commitment really play into you guys reaching that level of greatness?
Wow, that's a big one. I mean, because like there's always going to be things that sort of I don't want to say get in the way, but life happens in between all of these things. And once you kind of understand how to balance sort of the elements in your life and your passion, things become way easier. And there is a way to balance it, but the things sometimes you got to get really knocked down to really understand that, like, okay, I need to like, whatever, whether it be like family time, whether it be just taking care of regular day-to-day responsibilities, because I know, like, as artists, it's very easy to get consumed by everything else but the things like basic responsibilities of life. Sure. Like, it's very easy to kind of just put that aside and be like, I'm not worrying about any of that, and I'm doing music. Music has a way of getting, like, all of your attention. Yeah. It grabs it, like, more so than sort of like, oh, whatever, like rent's due tomorrow or whatever. It's like you can very easily forget those very important things. But, I think it does take some time to learn how to balance that. And I think every musician probably goes through that phase where they're like, oh, damn, they neglect other areas. But, I think that's all a part of the process. You're going to have to realize it's going to have to happen to you before you actually know or you're able to recognize it.
What kind of allowed you to kind of recognize that and start? I mean, naturally, it's not like a moment it happened and then you were just fucking balanced. Mm-hmm. But like, how was it for you in being immersed with that, and also understanding that, like, you know, you were so immersed with your craft that, like, you know, life does happen. Mm-hmm. You start to realize, like, you know, where you were when you were 16, 17 isn't where you're going to be when you're 24, 25, 30, and even 35. Like, this is a long game. Yeah. Like, the wants become different, the responsibilities become different, you know what I mean? Like, but what was it for you that started allowing you to really, I mean, go through it, like the trenches, right? Mm-hmm. So like, what did that do to allow you to like start to build your own balance and also build your just like understanding of being able to do, as crazy as it sounds, being able to live life and also create at the same mm-hmm. time? Because like, it's so wild that like they're intertwined, but they're really separate.
Well, for me, it was like after school, I was like, I decided I was going to move to LA. And I was like, all right, boom, I'm going to move to LA. It's going to be this whole thing.
Now, at this time, did the Virus album come out already?
The Virus album came out. No, I would say.
I still have the CD in my car.
No, I would say it was mastered by then. I think. Right. I think it came in when I think it came out when I just had moved to LA.
Gotcha.
But the reason I'm laughing about that is because it's funny because like I remember Virus was like, I don't know, production wise it's so far from us right now, but I know you love that album. But for people who don't know, Virus is like the Banger's like very first album as you know that we ever put out. So
to me it's like a time capsule, right? Like it captures like the moment, like when I think of that album I think about where I was, but like because it was so different than anything like I'd really listened to. It was wild, dude. You got to hear this album.
Hey, you know what?
But I was like, but at the time too, I'm like this, like I was like also into like
Joe has this like mounted on his wall. You know what I mean?
I still tease him about this stuff today, dude. I actually like thoroughly love this album and listen to it like nonstop.
Yeah.
Well, for the record, just so you know, the Virus was we created the Virus because you know, we learned all this production, number one, but number two, we had lost like a huge, like in our world, a huge competition. It was like a world finals, like ITF world finals.
Oh, really?
We didn't really lose. We got second, but still, it's like it was for us, it was a huge loss.
And that was the catalyst for doing Virus?
Well, I would say because in a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do, some of the records like Recognize, which is. You'll know what I'm talking about if you guys go research that. Okay. Recognize was like our battle record, like, you know, fuck everybody basically, you know? Right. And so, but we learned production now, so we could do all the little tricks we couldn't do live and that kind of thing. So anyways, you know, that was basically like, it came from learning production, but also like, all right, the battle scene is done for us. We're going to move on, you know?
Wow. I know. That's crazy.
That's wild.
But
now
like,
sure
it's funny, like back to when I was saying like moving to LA, like it was funny because I moved to LA and I had this expectations like, all right, I'm about to, you know, I'm going to work, I'm going to make music and do this. And like, I moved to this house and I'm literally living with all the same people I knew from San Jose. And it is, you know, no offense to anyone there, but like no one was really on that path of like working like that. It was just like San Jose.
Well, why'd you want to move to LA? What was your goal? Like, I'm going to move to LA and...
Honestly, I wanted to be like the Neptunes, like at that time.
Oh, okay. So you wanted to be a producer.
Yeah, because at this time it was like they were already like the epitome of like being a producer, like making beats, like everyone could do it. And at this time, I already had my MPC. I already knew how to use keyboards and that kind of thing. So I was like, I'm ready to go. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I get there and I'm in this house and I felt like I was in San Jose. It was on the outskirts. It was like in Santa Clarita.
Oh,
so
shit.
I was like, so I felt literally like I was in San Jose still. You know what I mean? So I kept grinding every day, and that's actually how I met Joe and Noah King and all those dudes. You know what I mean? And like, you know, I would literally like just be in the studio working on tracks all day.
So let's talk about your first apartment.
Oh shit. Okay.
So I met Replay. This has got to be like 2003. He lived in a shoebox.
I feel you.
That I remember it had AC, but that shit never got cold.
AC, quote unquote.
Yeah. The air was conditioned.
It was conditioned, yeah. The walls were very thin.
Walls were made out of thin ass paper, the kind of paper that you put like in your printer when you're doing like your 4th grade book report. But so I met Replay in his in this Hollywood apartment. So like it was so LA though, dude. It was so like a guy who moved to LA. He lived on Cahuenga. Like this is the dream right here.
Yeah.
And
I remember that place.
And he was, he was the first one where I actually really started recording. I always came from a rock background, and started recording over hip hop stuff because he was making beats with Noah, and they were doing rap stuff. And so he would make these beats, and I was like, oh, I'm going to lay live bass on it. That's kind of how we started. But that was my first kind of being exposed into the production world. And I remember at the time, was that you were also working at Encore?
Yeah, that was like, my checks from Encore paid for that little shitty apartment for sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
But we'll get into this too. But with Encore, that must have played a big role because you were in front and exposed to some big players.
Yeah.
At the time, it was Dre's place, and you were engineer.
Yeah. Well, I started as a runner. Yeah.
Yeah. But talk about that, man.
All right. Well, first of all, the only reason why I got that job was because I was so persistent and so stubborn. I kept sending my resume to the studio, and I was like, "This is Dr. Dre's studio. I gotta get in here. Like, I gotta get out of this house in Santa Clarita. Like, for real. That was my motivation." And I kept like sending my resume, calling, and the owner, finally is like, "Is this Ryan?" They're like, "All right, dude. Like, just come over here. Just come." And he interviewed me. He's like, "Dude, you would not leave me alone, huh?" And like, literally just like, and he's like, "You're hired, man." And I could tell you're a good dude. And so I was like, "Oh my God." So I start, and right away I started as a runner. And for those of you who don't know what runners are, you're basically a fly on the wall. You clean the whole studio. You're the first one there. You're the last one to leave. And you're just there to serve any clients that come through. But luckily I was around, some of the greats like, Kanye to High Tech to Dilla to Dre to 50, I was around everyone. So, it was a unique experience because I would go to work and literally hear High Tech making beats, or I would hear Kanye making Common's album and stuff like that. So it was a unique experience, you know what I mean? At the time it was kind of shitty because I was just like,
But being exposed, being in the same building, being around the same energy, and also like listening and watching how like these people are going through the music process must have just like visually have been crazy.
Especially for somebody that could already pick up on that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, who's also going home after this to do that.
Yeah. That was my motivation for real. Like I every day it was fun. I would go listen to whatever, like Kanye or whoever make a beat. And then I'll be like, "Oh, dude, I could do that." I'll be mopping the floors, like, "Yeah, I could do that." And then literally, like, I'll get home and it's like, "Nah, that don't sound nothing like that."
Why does my bass sound so thin?
Yeah, but isn't that crazy? That's like a first person like look into where the pinnacle of the game is.
Yeah, for real.
And then you also get to see sort of like, what makes it out of those sessions. And you're like, oh, okay, so I remember that one. I didn't know that was going to be the hit. But
straight
that
up.
one became the hit. Or that was the one that got chosen.
Yeah.
So it's like you get to hear sort of like the scope of the things that were being worked on.
True.
Not just the one that made it.
True.
You hear the actual scope.
True.
And so I think that's a lot of game right there.
Absolutely.
Game that just you're not going to get anywhere
and
else.
being the fly on the wall, like you're hearing everything.
It was dope. It was really dope because the company Encore at that time, they really were like a family kind of business. You had Daryl, who was like the manager owner, and then you had Joy, who was like the front manager, and then you had me and this guy Francis, and we're really the only ones. Damn. Francis is one of my mentors. He grew up in the military. He's from New York, but he early on he schooled me tough. He scolded me plenty of times. You know what I mean? shout out to Francis.
Oh, Francis.
Yeah.
Always about the hard beats.
But yeah, man, like it was dope because I had Francis Ford, who worked on, in the club with 50 Cent, worked on freaking Chronic 2001 as an assistant engineer. He was showing me like, he worked behind Mauricio Vito, who is Dre's engineer. Word. And so he taught me his way, like how everything had to be. Like, look, these cables need to be perpendicular, not parallel. Like these things, like tons of things. He's very meticulous, and he would scold me for it if it wasn't right. So like I had that kind of background under Francis, which was like, to me, it was like he told me so many stories and just slowly took me on. Like at first he was just like, "Yo, go do that." He talked to me like that.
You got to win his respect,
right? I had to win his respect, and slowly he would be like, "Yo, they're gonna get blah 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 is not showing up to studio tonight, so we could use the studio. You down to stay up all night and do that?" So I'll be like, "All right, I'll roll with you." Like, so we would like mess around, set up a little MPC, and try to make beats. When we could. You know what I mean? But really, it was him that really kind of showed me the ropes and kind of where I get a lot of that background as far as work ethic goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was your mentality with that though? Like, were you like, yo, you know what? Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna go do whatever the fuck they need. Like, you yell at me all you want.
Because
like,
you just came. I mean, you just came from recording school.
You got to think like Francis put me on to this. Like, yo, if you finish doing all your tasks, pretend like you're doing something. So a lot of times, like the man Daryl would see me just like cleaning the wall. You know what I mean? Like, yo, he's like, yo, you don't need to do that. Go. You want a drink or anything? Like, he would, a lot of times I was that guy, like, oh, Ryan, you don't got to keep cleaning, man. Like, but Francis taught me that. He was like, no, dude, like, if just look busy, even if you're not busy anymore. Word. You did all your stuff, like, just look busy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
How'd that shape you?
It shaped me a lot because, like, when I see the new generation now, and I feel like they, the new generation, like, it's different. You know what I mean? You could cut corners now with technology. And I feel like that thing is lost a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like, they make up for it in other areas. You know what I mean? But yeah, like it has shaped me because I'm not afraid to work. Like, I'm not afraid to go do some, labor or anything like that.
I mean, Joe was speaking about that about you earlier. Like we were discussing and like, he was like, bro, like you will not meet somebody that works harder.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I say that, it's just like you're putting in hours, but it's like, man, I've known you and you've had this in monstrous work ethic, but it's not just like it's doing whatever it takes ethic.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no like job that's too small.
Yeah.
Which one of my mentors always told me, it's kind of corny, but he's like, he was like, if you're too big to do a small job, you're too small to do a big job.
Right.
And for some reason, that always stuck with me.
Absolutely.
This dude, by the way, was the bass player for like Milli Vanilli.
Oh, wow.
But like the track, so he was the real dude.
Yeah.
The real dude. But,
he actually played?
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah, you can't lip sync a bass line.
Dude.
He's playing, he's over there looking busy.
Dude, I can do Girl, You Know It's True right now.
Hey.
Ooh. I love you.
But, so, Goldenchyld, during this time, like, how was your life? Replays in LA. Are the rest of the bangers are up north still? Mm-hmm. Where were you at this time?
I was in San Jose. I was actually, like, around that time, again, I was still going hard on the DJ thing. And I was DJing, anywhere from sort of like, big hip hop clubs to, regular sort of Thursday night kind of shit bigs or wherever. And I think also around that time I went on tour and I got a lucky break to actually go in on like a whole like US tour with Z-Trip, and I got really lucky with that, and he became sort of a mentor to me. So I came up under like on the DJ level. Yep. I came up like seeing him and working very closely with him. And
how was
to
that?
This day, he's one of my best friends. Like, word. It was crazy. It was he invited me to go on in 2005. He invited me to go on his Shifting Gears tour, and for me, that was sort of like the ultimate. Like, I actually got to go with him, and we played sort of like the circuit of all of the House of Blues across the U.S. and some other things. But I really got to understand what it took to make it on his level.
Yeah, to be to be actually like have a career as a professional DJ,
right?
Touring, but have a career beyond just like, hey, I'm a battle DJ amongst these crews. Now you're solo or individual, but like, how do I build my career into this world?
Yeah, he helped me understand how to funnel it from super technical to like, how do I take these things that I know how to do, but make it palatable to
audience,
to an audience now.
Word.
Because
it's not just about you at that point.
Right. It's like if I was up there scratching for an hour, it's like, that would get old really quick.
Word.
And so like when I got to understand a little bit more about sort of how he attacked it, it made me understand a little bit more about how I could attack it, in a different way than him,
it's crazy. How much were you guys thinking of like, of your professional careers and futures at this time? Like, all right, we had this battle crew, but, Pliz, you're going off and, going the producer route. Like, I want to be a producer, and you're going the DJ route, as now very different when you start to think of them as actual careers. Now you're thinking of like longevity. What am I going to build to in the future? Where were you guys' heads at in thinking about taking this as like something you did with the crew to like, this is going to be my job forever?
I don't know if any of us, well,
if you even thought about it, yeah.
Like I just kind of felt like more so than planning about sort of what I was going to be doing in the years after, I knew that it was my passion and I knew it was a step forward.
Word.
Okay.
And so I really think that that's what it was. I knew it was the right thing to do at that time, and even looking back, like I can say, it was the right. Just, even if you didn't know what the next few steps looked like, I knew that was right.
It felt right.
Back and it was right. So I think sometimes trusting in what the universe is putting on your plate and knowing sort of like that's what looks right now. You may not see too much past that, but it's right. So go. Yeah. And I think, the other things for your career and your future, like I think your mind will start thinking like that a little bit, little by little that opens up, and then you start understanding sort of like the strategy in the game. Yeah. And then you start applying that. But like the thing is until you're actually seeing the game on that level, in the just trenches, do what feels right. Yeah. You have to do what feels right for your passion, if that's your passion. You know what I'm saying? Particular people, like in particular that people that know that they're trying to follow their passion. You know?
Yeah, because it's so interesting. A lot of like times we talk, money plays a big part in this, right? Like there comes a time where like, yeah, this is fun and cool, and then there comes that time where like, I got to pay my bills, I got to make money. I actually like, I want to make a shitload of money, and I want to be wildly successful. We talk about art and commerce all the time, right? And how you balance that of like, is this something that you're just gonna do, because it's your passion? Are you gonna be broke and continue to do your passion? Or do you kind of like have to start thinking about money and how that plays in? And when kind of like do you cross those roads,
I mean, I'd say like, I think after doing it for so long, you kind of get into a lifestyle of just like learning how to just juggle, and hustle, you know what I mean? And really, getting in there to do the work and whatever it takes to make it happen. You know what I mean? If your lifestyle is living however it is, you're going to figure out a way to make it happen. You know what I mean? And I think I've learned that through the years of how to, if something happens, just maneuver around it, figure out another way to get it, and, and just keep going. You know what I mean? Just like anything, it's different, I guess, because, we're all, entrepreneurs in our own way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But what I find that comfortable, because now it's all on you to make it happen. I don't have to rely on anyone in order to get money. Like I know how to get money, and I'll go and do what I need to do it. You know what I mean? And when you have that and just doing it for so long like that, you know what I mean? Like it just natural, you know what I mean? To just work. Okay, I'm not making as much as I did last year. All right, well, I got to put extra work in now.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you could get into like autopilot where you're just like, all right, things are just coming in and you're just used to it. But I'm slowly, as I get older now, I'm like learning that like, like how to put something aside for this and do this, you know. Because I'll tell you in the beginning, you know, like, especially like when you finally start getting some paper, and I'm not even saying like a lot of paper, like getting some paper, you're like, oh, I made it. Like, you know what I mean? And like you start spending money, and then it's just like, oh, IRS hits you, and you're like, oh, that's right. You know what I mean? I forgot about that. You know, but you know, it's all stages, and I think it's with any job you're doing, it's just part of growing up, you know. So,
dude, you know what's crazy? I remember very clearly thinking about this, and what I did is I made a decision because I worked for a long time in the corporate world while I was DJing, and I would go into work tired, dead tired. You know, I'd just get home at like 3 a.m. from the club, and then I'd go to work the next day or whatever. And
what were you doing for work?
I worked at like I think at this time of this story, I was working for Yahoo in a customer
Goldenchyld's always had a I good day job, by the way.
Like, I mean,
he was making paper early.
I worked for many corporate companies in the Bay Area. It was the tech boom, so like they were hiring
was this
everybody.
something like within you? Because like I just want to touch on one minor point here, because like there's so many cats that are like, bro, like I'm a creative. Yeah, sure. I don't like I don't want to take time away. Yeah, and then there's those that like are able to balance like, fuck, well, I got a like real gig, but if my passion really ends up being able to support this and like take me beyond that, like all the better. But I'm willing to test it. And like some people make that distinction early. Others, like I know damn well for myself, like I was like, nah, bro, like I got to dedicate all my time to, like I could have gone out and did anything.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn. Like, was that something that you made a distinction for that early? Like,
I was planning my tour while I was working at Yahoo. Sorry, Yahoo.
You.
So okay, so let's put it this way, man. I made a conscious decision. Like, all right, when my DJing, and only when my DJing will match my paycheck that I get from here, will I say goodbye to it?
Word.
And so I worked to get it up there. And once I hit that consecutively for like a few months, I was like, word, I can leave now. You know, dope. Like once I have my DJing set up and I have my route and I know I'm getting that every month, then I can say goodbye to the corporate world, and I can live in here and I can focus on that and multiply it.
Word.
And that was my strategy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's worked. It worked for me. And now like
this really happens, y'all. These things actually people work day jobs. You can be smart about it,
or you could just take some crazy leap of faith that you might have to go back and start over. But like you could also strategize. At that time, that was my strategy.
Word.
What's funny, because everyone's like, oh, you know, if you have a plan B, then plan A is never gonna. And it's like I just don't believe necessarily in that as much as I feel like it's impossible to be broke. You know, it sucks.
You kind of got to be stubborn. And I was like, me and my girl laugh about this all the time, because my mom always says that to me, and she always like, yeah, you need a plan B, you need a plan C.
Sure.
And I go, and I'm stubborn, you know what I mean? So I used to always tell her like, nah, I only got plan A, because if I have a plan B, I'm already setting myself up to lose my plan A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I stayed focused on just plan A.
Well, it's something a lot of people say, but actually in your case, like you kind of went against it. You were still pursuing being a DJ, but
I knew what plan A was.
Yeah, you knew what plan A was.
But the thing is, sometimes you need preparation to even get to plan A.
Yeah.
Well, you could also use it, but it's also like you it's not like you can't think like so linear about it. It's not like, all right, just because I have a job doesn't mean I'm taking away from, like, your job helps fund what you can do. Like if you were just a DJ and you were making enough money, like when you have to deal with like issues and life problems and paying rent, it's so
that's going to slow you down way more.
I mean, and everyone's
if you're
different.
Evicted, that's going to slow you way down, way more down than going to work for 8 hours.
But look, everyone's
working on the psyche too, though, bro. Like that alone on the psyche is.
But in you too, I mean, like you said, like Encore was a way for you to pay for your apartment, so you could actually have a studio and play, you know, like you use these things as tools, not as if not thinking of like plan A, plan B. It's like know what you want to do and then use resources around you, whether that's a job or whatever you got to do to fund that dream, you know?
Yeah.
Being a runner at Encore was definitely part of plan A.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
But it was the grind. It was like, yo, you're going to have your grind, and then you're going to be able to have your time to actually for your passion.
Yeah.
And your grind and passion is always, they're going to be together. You're going to have to grind and do what you got to do so you can actually
Well,
like focusing on your passion is the fun part.
Yeah.
Another part,
growing
another part to that too is even like what I learned from Encore was like, yeah, I had a job, but man, I was on call all the time. If I made plans on the weekend and they said you got to come in, I had to go do that stuff.
Yeah.
And I learned that early, and I still do that now. I mean, my production department called me at 5:30 in the morning, was like, "Hey, dial back on the reverb, do this, do that." And I was like, "What?" All right, you know what I'm saying? I crawled in the studio and I went in there like 6 o'clock, and I was just like, you know what I mean? And it is naturally like, that's just part of it. You know what I mean? Clock is always on, so.
Now, jumping into being professionals, you're at a place where now you're funding yourself as a DJ, and I want to get into you too, of really diving into a professional producer.
Oh shoot.
We talk about this because it's a fine line, and like it's of being. There's a fine line you cross, right?
Yeah.
That where you're doing this for a living, right? In the music world, very, very tough to make it there.
Yeah.
But when you do, like, it really opens up, even at the very beginning. I know because I got right up to the line, but but like I see how it transpires, right? Talk about how you first crossed that line, that first kind of opportunity that brought you into, I'm not a runner, I'm not an engineer, I'm a producer, and I make music with people that are on real records. That's going to bring me real money now. Yeah,
well, I guess transitioning into after Encore, I was lucky enough to meet like Apple, Diap from the Black Eyed Peas, and the rest of the Black Eyed Peas, and being around them. And they actually haven't even made it yet at this point. They're like, they have a record, they had the records out, but they weren't to the level where, you know what I mean? Like, this is like,
they're not doing the Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, the Fergie just got in, you know what I mean?
Word.
And they're honestly,
and when they first started coming up, they were like super rap.
Oh yeah.
Raps.
They're Backpack, and to bring Fergie in was like a huge deal. It was like, and actually that album Elephunk was a make or break. I remember I went into the studio one time. They're like, "Yo, we got to sell like 170,000 albums to, or else we're getting dropped."
Wow.
You know what I mean? They didn't have a record. If you think about it, they didn't really have a record out at that time until it was Where's the Love? And that was going to be the next record that was about to drop. So I seen it early on, and each of them, coming from East LA and all that, like they come from that bottom too. You know what I mean? So I seen it like them skyrocket. You know what I mean? So luckily I took a job with Apple kind of as like his production partner, and I'd kind of just produce stuff with him, and he was kind of the first one to give me a salary and kind of like, all right, you're my producer now, and it's purely just like help him produce and try to get on albums, you know what I mean? So that was the first moment I had to be like, all right, I'm actually getting paid to be a producer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But even then, it was it wasn't like a big amount of money or anything like that. You know what I mean? All I knew is I was getting a salary, and I was cool.
Well, it was like you could call yourself a music producer.
Yeah. And
I'd be like, yo, I'm a music producer. I'm actually.
And that went and that went on for 4 years of just grinding, like, you know what I mean? And then luckily I got a break. So they're gonna work on The Energy Never Dies. I already missed 2 albums. I missed Elephunk and I missed Monkey Business. Word. I didn't get on those. And albums.
You actually had worked very hard to try to get on those.
Yeah, I was up with Apple. I would go. Actually, I worked at Encore and worked with Apple at the same time at one point, where I would go there after, and I would work there and he worked late into the night. You know what I mean? So I did that for a little bit, but then luckily, he gave me a salary and was able to be like, yo, here's a little bit of something. And so I was like, all right, I can leave Encore, because really, when you're in the studio, the max you're going to go is assistant engineer. And I already was doing assistant engineering jobs, but it's a hierarchy. It's an old school mentality. It's like you don't get to be assistant engineer until that assistant engineer graduates to be an engineer and take off somewhere else. Word. You know what I mean? But so in the actual studio, what do you call it? Hierarchy. It's like assistant engineer is the highest you get. So luckily, Apple took me and was like, yo, let's go do this. And so I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot about production. I didn't even know he was like super, like he could produce like that. You know what I mean? And then I would be around Will, seeing him make music, and I was like, dude. And
also making pop records.
Like I
think that's something to talk about too, is like going from hip hop records, that like underground backpack hip hop records, to we need to sell 170K.
Yeah.
We need to make pop records.
Yeah.
And like the reality of jumping into that world to be a successful producer, because the way the business weighs on you, like or a producer or an artist, you know, I mean, we hear a lot of all the time that, you know, sometimes it's like, all right, we have to do this for another reason, just to either stay on the label or just to keep our careers going. Sometimes it's just bigger than your art, you know, but that plays a huge part in like how you've developed, even like in your trajectory as a producer.
Man, the first time, I'll never forget this. The person that put me in with Apple and everyone was this guy, was their manager, Polo Molina. And I remember I had my beat CD and I put specifically 5 beats on this CD. I was like, this is the best shit. As far as coming from me, this is fire. I don't care what you say, right? And I was like, and Polo heard it, and I remember he was on the phone listening. I was like total like Hollywood like moment, like, and then he's like, yo, let me call you back. And he's like, yo, starts skipping through it, like, this is dope. Plays it for Will, comes back the next day, he's like, yo, Will said your music's dope, but you're still a beginner. So I was like, at first I was like, fuck that. And then I was like, wait, what is it? Why am I a beginner? Like, what is it about? So I started studying and I started really going into it and listening, asking questions and really just like listening, you know what I mean? And, you know, that's the thing. A lot of people get like nowadays, like,
well, why were you a beginner?
To him, and I know why now. I think it was just, it wasn't just at the level at where he was at. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? He's already produced like 15 years at this time. I'm like 4 years in.
But is that like, is it a composition thing? Is it a sound design thing? Is it like the way your drums hit? Is it like, or is it just the overall?
Well, he said the music was good. So to me, that told me like the writing was okay. You know, the writing's good. But production-wise, maybe the quality wasn't there. Maybe the drums weren't smacking the way they're supposed to be. Maybe I wasn't choosing the right drum sounds. Maybe it was a combination of stuff. You know, now that I listen to that, I mean,
you're like, I'm a beginner.
I deleted that whole hard drive, so that shit's gone. Like, you know what I mean? But like, it was a learning experience. You know what I mean? Like, and I think you know, you need to have that. You need to have that. You need to be open to constructive criticism for real. I'm not saying not to believe in yourself, because that's a whole nother thing, but at least be open-minded enough to understand like why. You know what I mean? Why don't I have any cuts right now? Yeah. You know what I mean? I know I'm dope, but why don't I?
Yeah, it's not just that the world's against you. It's like,
exactly.
There has to be something.
There has to be something. You know what I'm saying? And that's all a learning process. And maybe we won't recognize it now, but we eventually will. You know what I mean? And yeah, he was right. You know, that was the realest thing he's ever said. And, you know, luckily, like, you know, later I was able to gain his trust and be like, okay, you know, he's dope now, you know?
You're working at it, you thought about it.
So, you know, it was all learning. It's a learning curve, man. You know, you really, for me, at that time, especially I was studying every producer, and Will was one of the producers I studied, because this is around the time, like, I was a hip hop head. So like, studying his stuff was like, he already put the BBC album out and that had super dope beats on that, and I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? I seen it. I remember I had to drop some files one day, and he was at Record Plant in the big studio, and I was like, he was making a beat and he was just drumming, looking at me. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, in my head, I'm like, oh my god, I kept looking down, because every time I looked up, he was like looking at me, and he just like making the sickest beat, and I was like, dude, this is crazy. And I remember they laughed because I was like totally mesmerized, and my boy Dante Santiago, shout out to him, he's like Will's right hand. He was in there. He's like, yo, Replay, soon this is going to be you, man. In a big studio. And I was like, Hella called me out, and I was like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? I was like, because I was like super watching this dude, like, wow, this guy's going to the drums now, playing drums live, going to the keyboard, playing everything live. And I'm like, dude, this guy's a beast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just knew that. I was like, all right, I wasn't on that level yet. You know what I mean?
Did you have any moments like that where you felt like, you know, obviously being a DJ and in the battle seems super hard and reaching a super high level there. Did you have, going into the professional performance world and touring world, did you have any moments like that where you felt like a beginner, or
like humbled?
yeah, just like humbled or like, holy shit, like I'm actually not as good as like I think I really am, or I have really a lot to learn if I want to play with the big boys.
It happens all the time, and I think it continues to happen. You know, and I think that being able to recognize that will just keep you on your grind, though. Like, and to recognize someone is doing something that almost like, or attacking it in a different way, you know, or approaching it in a different way. And I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing that. I oddly enjoy being humbled at the sight of someone doing something that I can't do. And I think that's a big part of my drive. You know, it's like, I'd rather see that than seeing someone do something that I can do. Like, so I actually crave that.
When you were on tour with Z-Trip, what was he doing that really opened your eyes as a DJ, going from kind of where you were into this, you know, thinking of yourself and your future as a DJ? What did he do that inspired you to be like, all right, I know I'm not there yet, but that's where I want to be? That replay moment of like, yo, you're gonna be there one day. It's gonna be you, dog. Like, where did that moment hit for you?
So I remember again, like, and he does it even to this day. Like, we'll walk into a room for like sound check, and for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure Z-Trip is like a guy. Like, we've all heard of the term sound check before. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes sound check with Z-Trip is actually longer than the show.
Shut the fuck up.
So like we'll get to sound check at like 2 p.m, and we'll be sound checking all the way till before doors are open.
Wow.
Okay. It's like, I mean, sound check, like he would literally get in as early as they would let him.
Wow.
Okay. And so then he'll get in there, and first, the sound check is actually the smallest part of sound check is actually checking the sound. Okay. So we get in there and he checks it, like, we'll check the sound. And I would hear this guy and be like, he would like actually talk to the sound guy and be like, oh yeah, you know, I need you to dip, you know, 4K. You know, I need you to dip. And he would actually go in and be like, oh, you know, you're like, he would literally tell the sound guy, like, yo, you need to lighten up on that limiter, pull it back, blah, blah. And as a DJ, he's talking sound man. He's talking EQ,
sound engineering.
He's talking engineering. Like, he's already thinking about that. He's bringing in his own tube, like DIs from his thing. He still does this to this day. Wow. He brings in his like, and like there was an attention to detail where I would go to like prior to this, I'd walk into a show and be like, "Where's your turntables? Where's your mixer? All right, cool, let's go. All right, so is it making noise? Good.
Right. That was it.
No, Z-Trip doesn't operate like that. He was like, no. You know what?
He'll get the blueprints of the venue first, and then just start going after it. Hey, what's that defect right there architecturally?
Like, there's
right
literally a video of him. Like, he'll go and be like, "Yo, show me your amps." And he goes to the amps. He's like, "Yo, what the hell? Amps are all dusty." He's like cleaning them off, like retuning. Like, he'll retune a room specifically for the way he plays, and he knows it. And that just. I was just blown away by that, and ever since then, and from the way he would bring his own chords to hook into whatever they had, he would bring his own, like, everything, as much power as he could have over the way he sounded, we'd do it, right? And so that would take a small part, and the rest would just be rehearsing bits, rehearsing like things. So like that was a moment that just kind of put me on game. I was like, okay, so the reason why you never hear Z-Trip come off whack is because he's in there making sure that it's impossible.
Nothing goes wrong.
How was his interaction with with the stage crew guys and the sound guys? Like, because to be able to, because this is the thing, he could do all of that he wanted, but unless those players like in the background that you'll never see at a venue were like A, down to do it, and also B, just like rocking with the artist, like you're not gonna get that type of set out of somebody, right? Like, did he have an artful way of doing it? Did he bring cats in?
Well, he made sure that whatever he needed anybody else for, we got that stuff done early.
Got it.
And so that they could leave, and then once we had everything the way we needed it, then we have the rest of that time to kind of just jam out, practice new bits, rehearse like things that we knew were gonna happen. But it's like, not only did we sound check, but we were practicing 7 hours a day for a 3-hour, 4-hour show. You know, like, that's kind of how he operated. And that was really the only time he had to really kind of sharpen, you know, his set as we moved along through that tour, you know, and that taught me again, like, okay, so this is how it's going down. Like, this is where the practice time is. It's not necessarily always just at home. Sometimes it's when you're at the venue and you're about to go on. You're like, you're practicing something that's going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's wild, bro.
It's a different level of professionalism. That attention to detail. You know, it's like, even if you think someone's coming off like super raw and super, it's just like, that's probably very calculated. Yeah. You know, everything they're doing. Now, at this time, like, you guys are both kind of driven on your solo routes away from the bangers. Where were the bangers at this time? Because you guys, obviously, your worlds paralleled, but this is something that still tied you together. I know, you know, Prism was released. You're still making music. The Bangers is a brand. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
Like, it's a big thing. It gives you guys even credibility to this day, especially among a whole culture. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a lane to still connect in music, obviously, with the Jabberwockies, and also all the ads you guys done, the commercials you guys done, and connected as a crew. What impact did being a part of the Bangers during this time still have on you guys?
Well, yeah, like around, like at the same time, you know, Jabberwockies, because we actually knew the Jabberwockies when we put out Virus. That was the first music that the Jabberwockies, as a group, as like the Jabberwockies, danced to. Was our first album, Virus. So that was 2003. So moving forward, they got on that show, America's Best Dance Crew, and a lot of the routines that they had were our music. Yep. You know what I mean? So if for those of you who don't remember that, like MTV's America's
it was like
Best Dance Crew,
it was like 2008.
It was like
dude, the Jabberwockies did something no crew ever did. Yeah. Like, just their whole dance style. And then I didn't even find out until later that you guys were really the soundtrack behind them. Yeah. We're, you know, I mean, some of the tracks they ended up having to like remake and that kind of thing. But yeah, like from there they won the show and they took off and they got their own Vegas show. Yeah. So from there they were like, look, you know, we're going to have this new Vegas show at the Monte Carlo. We're gonna need someone to put together all the music for it, and we ended up creating the show and then creating an album. And as far as creatively goes, like at that time, I would say like until now, like doing stuff with the Bangers is like my creative freedom. This is like my me time now. Word. You know what I mean? It's like which is so funny because it's your me time, but it's with 6 other dudes
who we're all brothers and we all know each other's sounds. So for us, it's like, all right, we get to get weird, you know, like at this time I'm already producing, like I'm trying to do pop stuff and do that thing. And I would say having the Bangers outlet was like a breath of fresh air, because it was like, all right, now I could balance it out with this. And it's crazy because eventually those paths crossed, you know what I'm saying, to where music is now, where I do need to know some of the tricks that I've learned through the Bangers and doing those albums and apply it to pop music now, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, it's amazing. Like till this day, like I was talking to Goldenchyld like a week ago, and we're actually working on another project and stuff. And I was like, man, we need this. Like I miss doing this, like creating stuff together, and that's not, you know, for a certain artist or whatever. It's just to make music that we love to make. You know what I mean? So I think it benefits, you know, our music level, because we're able to experiment, you know what I mean? And at this point right now, Jabberwockies, they're pretty much open to whatever we do creatively, musically. So they're like, they're right there with us. They're like, if we come up with a new trick or whatever it is, like they're like, oh yeah, that's dope. I haven't heard that before, you know? Yeah. And so we're all on the same page. So
yeah, it's interesting, like how you know, in you guys' separate careers, still how impactful the Bangers and you guys together have helped even like further your careers as individuals and what you're doing, and actually influencing it. You know, how you kind of like, it's your roots, but it's also like allowed you guys to be more innovative, to use some things, to use the chemistry of the collaboration or the tricks or everything, or even just get you out of like the business space of like, oh, I got to make another pop record, to just be weird, to allow your brain to just open up, you know? I always thought like, because the Bangers is such a roots that's kept you guys so connected. And going to your pop records, though, I wanted to say after Black Eyed Keys, the Black Eyed Keys, that works too, dude. That should be like
that'd be a
mashup. You get into Free School. I'm just gonna jump in. And you start making big pop records. We're talking about on a different level now. You have Chris Brown, Cudi, Krayshawn, Madonna. Throwing them out.
Oh man.
But it's you know, it is a different world. I mean, you've actually been amongst this world since day one, coming out to LA. But now you're immersed in it among a production team, making big records on the radio and really being a full-on, now you're a business. It's more than just being a producer. Now this is a business you kind of have to run. How did that change kind of like your state in music? Because it's, you know, on one end you're like, you know, Bangers is where I feel like home. I can get weird. That feels like me. I want to do me. So now this business and Free School and making these big records, it's still you, but how did that really change into like now thinking about this is your career and you have to sustain that and how important that is? Well,
like it's crazy how, you know, the world works and stuff and how things happen. But I met the other guys. So Free School, there's me, Jean-Baptiste, and Michael McHenry. And those two guys, they're best friends. They grew up together. But Will kind of brought them into LA to just start working with him on some of the new Black Eyed Peas stuff. So we're all working on the same project. So I'm working with Apple, coming in, and we're all at the same studio working. And like, we just vibed, you know what I mean? Like we really got, and after the Black Eyed Peas, we did the Energy Never Dies album. And then, and from there it was like, all right, what do we do now? These guys are on tour. You know what I mean? And it was just like, all right, let's just continue working in the studio. And so we started the company, and it was just like, you know, we're like, you know what, we could do this on our own. And so we actually all started in the same place, kind of just like coming from getting out of the shadow of this and trying to get into our own. So the first thing that we did was like, by this time, you know, my partner Jean had already wrote like some big records, you know, from Boom Boom Pow to I Got a Feeling, and his name's kind of getting out there. And he's just like, man, let's do this, you know? So the first project that we got was Chris Brown. You know, this is like the first time I ever met. John actually had worked with him before, but just like very like casually, you know? So this was the first time like he was actually like, I'm going to lock a week with you guys. Let's just make music. And like, so from that on, I would say at this point, Jean had taught me a lot about songwriting. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, like this guy is truly like a masterful genius when it comes to lyrics and writing a song. You know what I mean? And so I realized that, and Chris saw that early too. You know what I mean? And that was one of the things why Chris brought him on. So we're getting there, you know, we're like, yeah, we're in here, we're doing our thing. Like we got 5 records on his new album. We're like, and then like the whole thing with him and Rihanna happened, and I was just like, oh. Dwindled down to like 3 records. Wow. And you know, this is my first example of like, oh, this is how it works. You know what I mean?
The industry exists.
Anything could happen. You know what I mean? Anything could happen. And it just happened that fast. You know what I mean? And I, you know, from then on I was like, I mean, I kind of learned, but this was really a moment was like, wow, things could really happen just like that. And
things cannot happen just like that.
And things cannot happen like
things
that.
Things can change in the middle.
Like things that you thought were going to happen.
This is just a game. You know what I mean?
Disappear.
Yeah. You know?
That does happen. I mean, that's
it happens all the time.
Yeah. So, you know, that was a huge learning experience. And so, I mean, getting back to what you're saying, I would say like now being independent on our own, it was just like, you know, luckily enough we had, you know, we could, you know, pivot off of, you know, the thing that we did with the Black Eyed Peas, because that was starting to do good. And that was like my first placement as a songwriter too. So I was like, all right, cool. You know, I didn't know what it was financially. It was just kind of like, all right, that's there. I didn't know what it was going to come out of it. You know, this is my first time. But getting the Chris thing, and starting to do that, it opened up doors to work with a lot of other people, you know. So
I think I did the first license you ever had.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I still have that somewhere.
Man, Joe's had done so many favors for me. He looked over my contracts.
He's like, oh, yo, I have 5% on this song. And I have 3.45% on the song. And they want to use it in some show.
And he was like,
that was funny.
He's like, oh. He's like, Joe will try to give you the realness, but at the same time, like, you know, make sure you go on the right path.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But it's like, but being in the music game, especially the production game, I mean, it's so competitive. Like, I don't know, you produced too, and you guys actually just produced a great track with Travis Scott not too long ago.
Yeah.
But the production game is very difficult. Obviously, and it's changed a lot. How do you sustain longevity in this when music is changing? I mean, you could even talk about this with DJing too, which I do want to get into too, like the definition of what a DJ, how that's evolving.
Yeah.
How do you evolve with the times and compete with, you know, the B. Lewises?
Shout out there. B. Lewis.
Shout out to B. Lewis. But how do you live in this environment and have your longevity when music is constantly changing, when there's a ton of politics, when there's a lot of like double, triple dipping, you know, and navigating those waters, whether it's a relationship or, you know, building upon those relationships, you know, how do you continue to have a career in this and deal with all that at the same time? Well,
you know, you said it like going back to what you even said about like some people not even being available to work with because they're just in their creative zone in their own, you know, little world. Yeah. It's like you got to be open. This is a music business. You know, people forget about the business side. And I would say our longevity as far as free school goes is our relationships. You know, like we've always maintained, you know, when, you know, splits maybe not favor us in a certain, when it should, maybe we'll just, you know, it's cool. We'll, you know, like we'll keep it cool. You know what I mean? Not to say we're pushovers, but we always kept things chill. And I think that's helped us in our careers because we're still able to work with the same people that we've been working with for the last 7-8 years. You know what I'm saying?
But you know the importance of sound, like when there's, you know, the DJ Mustard sound, when there's the Mike Will sound, when like these things go in phases, and then like, or the Skrillex sound, like all of us, like these things happen super fast. Yeah. And they come and go. Maybe some stay longer than others. And this has been going on. Like, how do you deal with that and keeping your guys is like, being what's the word I'm looking for, like malleable in that world?
I think we just don't worry about everybody else. True. You know what I'm saying? Like we just worry about being creative and doing the right moves that we feel is right. You know what I'm saying? Because that sound or whatever the sound is, it'll come and go. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, I'm proud to say that we've made it through different sounds and played the background. A lot of people criticize, you know, they're always co-producing on this song and that song and this song. Yeah, we are, but we know who really wrote it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's just for us. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, this is a business. Some people shoot themselves in the foot before they even got a royalty check. You know what I'm saying?
All the time.
And so it's about your relationships and how you conduct it, man. How can you conduct your business, dude? You know, it's like, I see it all the time. Like, people get brand new and people think they're the next shit. They're this, that. And maybe that's true. But how long is that going to be lived? Yeah. You know, there's a very small industry where people will find out you're an asshole really quick. You know what I'm saying? And
every artist is a human being, bro. Like, character plays a very big role in
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And you just got to be you really got to humble yourself and realize, like, look, you're doing what you love. You know what I mean? There is a business side to this, and it's been formed like this for many years. You know what I mean? It's how you wiggle around and figure out how to make it work for you. You know what I mean? And I think as far as free school goes, we've been able to do that because we're willing to collaborate with other people and not say, nah, we're not this. Nah, like we'll collaborate with everybody. You know what I mean? And because of that, because we're not trying to be all, in the videos. No, I'm saying
all up in the video,
dancing. No, just kidding. No, because of that, really, real talk. Like, I think because we've always been chill and kept it, you know, about like the music and the craft and our relationships more than anything. Because I would say, like, there've been plenty of times where we could have just been like acting like how some other people out there act, and like, nah, I did all this and did that and blah blah blah. Okay. Yeah, but, you know, like, we still want to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
It's crazy. Like,
yeah.
I was in the studio with some young cats of an artist that, like, I really, really fuck with. Like, you know, sometimes you just, you know, in this game, you just meet cats that, like, you just fuck with their movement and fuck with their craft. It's not to say that you're going to do anything for them now or then, but, like, you're open and willing to do anything that's needed if the time comes. But it's crazy because I see this young production crew and cats are already talking about splits. And I'm just like, bro, like, y'all don't have a record yet. Fuck the split. Fuck what this is going to do. Like, fuck the, in radio, if, like, bro, just make a banger. Deal with that later.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
I know.
Like, cats are over here just like, literally, I was watching this dude just break it down into this fucking like flow chart, and I'm like, you don't have a record out yet. Like, I fuck with you, but don't get jaded too early, and don't be that guy that is gonna bring up the convo when like you have nothing to stand back on. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain times it's off-putting, and there's others where at the end of the day, bro, it's like this. Like, and I think both you guys touched on this like incredibly well. Is that you have to be in the trenches to know what this shit is. Like, there's no science. You have to be able to, you know, feel things out. You're going to get fucked here, but then that's going to teach you not to get fucked there. And like, you're going to have to go through this and go through that. And it's like the only way that you'll really be able to experience it is by experiencing it.
Get in the game. You have to show up to the game, you know, and like and understand what it's like to maybe lose. So that you can understand what it's like to win.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting. It's like we've seen it so much, especially like now with the technology of like what YouTube provides, what SoundCloud provides, like what just music distribution provides, how easy it is to distribute it and get out there. You're like throwing a pebble in the sea, right? How do you know, for an aspiring producer, for someone who wants to get out there, like the kid in middle America right now, or from another country who's like, man, I would love to live in LA and get 5% on a record. Like, that's on the radio. Like, that's insane. But how do you get in the game? You know, like you're saying, just show up to the stage, just show up to the game. How do you get in the game at this stage? You know, and we've talked about this with a lot of people, and like, well, it comes down to just making really good music, and and I get that that's a part of it, but you can't be an asshole and have really good music either. How do you penetrate that?
Well, there's, you know, I would say, you know, it is your work ethic and you know, the music you make and how different it sounds from everybody else. That's a big part of it, especially right now, because, you know, people are being discovered on SoundCloud right now, and they went from their bedroom to having full-on deals. You know what I mean? Like,
huge platform.
You know what I mean? Like, you'll get a message on SoundCloud all the time from people like trying to, you know, get into your world. You know what I mean? So there's that, but it all goes back to your relationships, man. You know, the songwriters you work with, the producers you work with. You know what I mean? It really comes down to that. And I learned that with us, it's like we're lucky enough, as I say, us Free School, like we're enough, you know, we have personal relationships with other producers, other writers, you know, other artists, you know, and that's how you get on albums, you know?
And on the opposite end, in the DJ world, like we are in the era of DJs, right? Like super different. I mean, I think it's super different. I could be wrong, but like from your roots to what it means to be a DJ right now. How's that changed for you as a DJ? I mean, you're throwing events, Return of the Boom Zap. Bang. You still have a very prominent DJ career. How have you evolved or seen it evolved, and how's that affected you as a DJ?
You know what's crazy is, I mean, I grew up on the DJ. I think the DJ producer is not such a shock to me like it is to most people, because I grew up idolizing like the Shadows and the DJ Premiers and the people that sort of knew how to do both or had a good idea of what sounded good and made it, you know. So for me, the fact that like you have you know, DJs, you know, and maybe they're making kind of different styles of music, or the DJs that are sort of on the forefront, yes, they're making a different style of music, but I think the flow of it and sort of how like it's not very foreign to it's not super foreign to me as a DJ, because I grew up respecting it so highly, just like how songs were written or how they moved, you know.
Have you felt pressured to jump into the EDM at all?
Have I felt pressured to?
Just by like the world and the
I've
state
never
of music.
felt really pressured to. I mean, I've always knew that in order for me to kind of be in my own lane, I had to just kind of play the music that I gravitated towards, and whether it's EDM or whether it's, you know, pop, that's almost one and the same now, but. You know, whether it's EDM or even like, let's say, drum and bass, it was about selecting the songs that I identified with.
Yeah.
You know, I learned pretty quickly that it wasn't just about sort of being able to do or to play one style of music really good. You know, it's like, you know, early on, I would say I made not really a mistake, but I just was like, no, I'm a hip hop guy. I only play hip hop.
Sure.
I don't do any of that other stuff. Forget all that, you know? And some people get really caught up in that, you know, and sort of like they're gonna really.
That just limits your scope.
It limits your scope, and so.
Well, there's always those videos like you see like scrolling on Facebook, like this is what a real DJ should be, and it's like just someone with like turntables versus like now there's always that contradicting kind of like thing that's happening between the real DJ versus like a DJ now.
Yeah. I try not to get caught up in too much in that stuff, because it's very easy for me to be like to look at my experience and look what I had to go through versus what like people now have like are capable of doing.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure everyone has their own struggles. So I try not to get too caught up in that, and I just try to still be a fan and really kind of like I said, I'm a fan of things that expose me to something new. I'm a fan of new music. I don't stay rooted in. I don't stay liking one guy for my whole life or one type of sound or one, you know, like. So I mean, I'm just a fan of where everything can go, and as a DJ, I'm looking for it all the time. Yeah. And that I definitely know sort of seeps into sort of my production too. Like I'm a fan. Like if I don't know how to do it, the curiosity is there. I'm gonna try and figure out how I can accomplish certain things. You know. So.
Yeah, because it's like DJs are the new rock stars now. Like it's just that we live in that world. It's just an interesting perspective on how that is, especially. I mean. By the way, replay DJs, I'm told, one day a year.
Not anymore. I got rid of my
Oh, you retired.
Yeah, it was taking up too much space in the studio.
He's like, nah, that one day a year was taking up too much time.
That hurts me to hear.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to now, like, and I'll even go back to the bangers. What is the bangers now? Like, what do you guys collectively now? Like, aside from, I mean, you guys are both here today. You're still collaborative, make records today. Working with new writers, new beat makers collectively today, taking all the knowledge that you guys have together, being a part of the culture, still impacting the culture. Like, what's your relation and the bangers today? If you're not even DJing, bro,
you're probably being a dad, or you're probably we're really more a family than anything. Like, anytime we get together now, it'll probably be more to just like, you know. Go to one of our kids' like birthday parties and stuff like that. We're a family, you know what I mean? Like all this time, you know, we still make brothers. Yeah, we're a band of brothers. You know what I mean? Some of us still work on music together and stuff like that, or do gigs together. But beyond beyond all that, you know what I mean? We're a family. So that's what we're doing now.
And what's the tie with music still with the bangers? Is there
I mean,
it's the Jabberwocky still.
Yeah, definitely that's still going a lot, like, you know, the Jabberwockies thing. But, you know, beyond that, like, maybe it might be like a song someone hears and we're all on a text message together and we'll be like, yo, check this out. And like everyone has their own different lives. Like, you know, Cutso's always on tour with like Lyrics Born. Nick's doing shows out in the Bay. The other guys are doing gigs all the time. And you know, so we're all doing different things in our own way, you know what I mean? But we all, as far as the bangers go, getting together is very rare, but it's mainly for like family things and getting together. Yeah,
still a crew.
Yeah, we're still a family, you know.
Let me ask you guys, because like it seems like we've culminated to like young, hungry, passionate, like ready to get after it. Like you know what I'm saying? The culture has influenced you guys, and just like, I guess like scenes and communities within each other of like the craft have gotten you guys to this point. And you know, naturally you guys are always going to be creatives, but then life happens. You know what I'm saying? Like you get girlfriends, wives, kids, you know, different wants in life and whatnot. You guys reach so many different milestones from going from nothing to something to where, you know, you have shitty jobs to like dope jobs where the job it becomes obsolete and it becomes full passion. Looking back on it now, right? Like, do you guys feel successful? And like, what is success? You know what I'm saying? Like, did the definition of success change for you as it went along? And like, when you look back now, whether it's like feel successful, whether it's feeling like you made it, like I feel like within all of these things, like there's like a cocktail of like success, making it and happiness, right? Like they all play a different role in defining one another. But like, what do you guys feel successful? Has success changed for you throughout the time? And you know, what is success to you?
You want me to do it? Well, for me, like, I think success for me is being able to do what I love every day. You know what I'm saying? And then still have a family life, still have, you know, my head, you know, a good head on my shoulders. I would like to think I do. You know what I mean? And I at this point, my career has merged into. This is what I truly love to do. I'm like, it's not even something I got to think about. It's just already happening. You know what I mean? It's just moving along just with me. I can't get away from it at this point, you know? And so it's not something that I look at as like, you know, oh, I got to be a millionaire to have success. It's like, you know what I mean? I think, maybe at a point in time, I felt like maybe money, there is a level of success, but I would say I live a pretty simple life and I feel successful because I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm able to work and still do what I love to do. So to me, that's my own level of success. Maybe other people have different levels of it. Maybe it's to be in a mansion somewhere and doing that. But I'm 33 now, you know what I mean? So looking at it, I've met people that have that and aren't as happy as I am. So I don't see how that is being successful, you know what I mean? So I have other friends who I admire who have their own businesses and could do their family thing and have the money and all that. And that's another level of success. You know what I mean? That's their thing. But for me personally, I feel like if I'm healthy and I'm able to do what I love and be happy, that's it. That's all I need. So, you know, yeah, awesome. I do feel successful, I guess.
Respect.
You know?
What about you, Cudo?
Yeah, man. You know, I think there's I went for long enough. Well, let's just say I went through sort of life long enough doing what I didn't like to know that this is way better. So you know, I mean, I'm sure all of us have sort of, you know, gone through, you know, like the job that you hated but you had to go every day.
Yeah.
And that is so far away from my mind that I really wake up sort of happy at the fact that like I'm sort of living it on my own terms. I could wake up, and if I want to, I could take my daughter to school. I can go home, and I could work on music for the rest of the day. Then I can go DJ my gig later, and I come home, and it's like, it's okay. So yeah, I think it's almost kind of backing what Replay just said. It's just, if you could wake up every day and not hate what you have to do every day, then I think you're doing all right, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So, whether it's legit or not.
What are you trying to say? So what is your job, bro?
That we don't have to go into that.
For real.
No, but
Hove did that,
really,
so you don't have to go through that.
You hit him with that. Yeah, it's funny. That's actually it's a common response. I think there's the fantasy of it, and I think you guys have lived that fantasy too. So you also have a perspective on what kind of success is. Like you live the touring life, you live the party life. You've been blowing cash and doing like all the things that like you think rock stars or what you wanted to be as a kid would be. You've done all that.
Ends very fast, by the way, so don't try it at home, kids.
But like
it's so funny, history always repeats itself. We
it's like, but but it's like that's what everyone says, but like but I think it's fair to say like you guys have had that experience, so you can speak on that perspective. That's something a lot of like the youth really does want. Not even just the youth. I think a lot of people want to live in that fantasy of what they think it means to be in the music business. Yeah. Out here, fucking LA and Hollywood. Like it's exciting. It can be thrilling. It could be a crazy roller coaster. But is that success, like, and is there a tangible thing that defines that? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a certain level you get to, or is it just simply being happy?
It's funny that you say that, because like, truthfully, going through your career, like, or going through life, like, you always hear that, like, money truly doesn't make you happy. And like, I always liked hearing that, but then at the same time, I always thought about that, like, but it would be awesome to have this, right? But it wasn't till like recently really that I really realized like that it's true. Like, money doesn't make you happy. You know what I mean? Like, I really understand that now, because I feel like I'm in a time in my life where I literally have everything that I need and love. You know what I mean? And everyone's healthy. You know what I mean? That's a big thing that people forget about.
$10 million and somebody close to you has cancer. Like, what's that $10 million gonna do?
What is that gonna? It's not gonna do anything for you.
Real.
So I think it's just life and you learn those lessons. Because there was one time in my life where I did want to live like extravagant like that. You know what I'm saying? Like
MTV Cribs.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Of course.
But then I was like, man, it's like the industry kind of guides you in that path, because you'll come into it thinking that. But now I'm like, I'm cool. Like, I'm cool. I'm healthy. I got a place to sleep at every night. I have great people around me, which is very important in my life. And so, yeah, like, I think that's everything. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you could have $10 million and lose somebody. You know what I mean? And have no control over that. And then you'd be completely lost. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, and doing what you want to do. And also, like you said, like, sometimes it's like doing stuff you don't necessarily want to do to find something, like, to even know that. And we've heard that too, is like, to know what you don't want to do helps you find what you do want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think having the ability to choose what you want to do with your time is probably,
but actually making a decision.
Yeah. Like, I mean, having like working yourself into a position where you get to make the choice of how you're going to spend your time, and not having your time being owned by somebody else. Or even if it is owned by somebody else, you could still finagle it into it being to serve your purpose too. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's that to critical. Me is that to me is sort of success. If you're using it to sort of like, whatever it is your goal is. I mean, it doesn't even matter. But if you spend your time trying to push that, and you figured out a way to make that work, then you're kind of a success.
It's funny, man.
Balance.
Like everyone has different levels of success, man. Like like my mom's level of success is seeing me on Filipino TV. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I can tell her whatever I'm doing, like in America, in the U.S., and she's like, "Oh, that's nice. When are you going to be on this channel again?" I'm just like, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, but when are you running for senator in the Philippines?
Exactly. So
are you Pacquiao's running mate though? Is that really real?
Oh, that's a whole nother show right there. So, but yeah, yeah, man. I would say if I was gonna send any message right now to anyone coming up in the game, I would say, do truly what makes you happy. Money will eventually come, and it's definitely necessary to have it, and be smart with it, but treat it like any other job. You're not gonna go and work at Kinko's or whatever and fucking blow your check in the club. You know what I'm saying? So
straight up,
money comes a lot faster in the music industry. So be smart. That's all you could do.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Hey, man, thank you guys for coming.
Dude, thank you. It's a pleasure, man.
Where can people?
It's incredible, bro.
Yeah. Where can people connect with you guys?
You could connect on Goldenchyld's page. No, I'm kidding. I don't really have I'm not big on the social network, but
here's Goldenchild's address and credit card information. Visa 413.
But yeah, you could definitely catch Goldenchyld on social network somewhere, Facebook.
Goldenchyld with
Snapchat.
You can follow my
snapping pictures of me eating food.
Goldenchyld with a Y.
Yeah, Goldenchyld with a Y. www.goldenchyld.com.
Word.
Throwing the website out there. Flizzy. DJ Replay.
Am I on
in the liner notes of your favorite song?
Replay is like, if you find me, then you got me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But y'all gotta find me first.
There's like 3 people like out in Iceland somewhere found me on Snapchat and realized it ain't the right Replay. So I don't want to put it out there, but I'm on Snapchat. If you find me, if you have my number, add me. But besides that, check out for Free School too, man. Like any production we're doing. Actually, we got some projects coming on with Goldenchyld, and I haven't called them this in a long time. Nobility. We got some things coming, so look out for that. We got some records coming out with Will, Will I Am, so coming out. So yeah,
awesome.
Get it.
DJ Snake too, as well.
Oh, that's
so,
lit.
Amazing,
fellas. It's been amazing.
Yo, man,
thank you so much for coming through, yo.
Thank you guys, Mama.
We made it.
Woo!
Proud.